Whenever I sit down to write a new script, I feel like a conspiracy theorist throwing red string around my office, connecting dots that don't necessarily need to be connected, yet I do it anyway. And with that, let's jump right into it. There is a war coming to Fallout 76, and it's starting with the Steel Dawn update. That's right, a war for the fate of the wasteland is coming to Appalachia and the Brotherhood of Steel, or the front line. Welcome, Wastelander, to Think Tank. So I've been playing a lot of 76 recently, and it's gotten a lot better since it was first released. And it got me thinking about the new Steel Dawn update that was supposed to be released on the 1st of December but came out early and threw my entire schedule out of whack. I've been curious to see where Fallout 76 is going since the Wastelander update, and have been curious to see how they are going to keep the game interesting, which leads to several overarching questions. The first being, why has the Brotherhood returned to Appalachia after an entire chapter was wiped out by the Scorched? According to the recent video uploaded by Bethesda, the new group led by Paladin Romani, Scribe Valdez, and Knight Shin have arrived in Appalachia to help support the Appalachian chapter in whatever way they can, unknowing that the chapter has since fallen to the Scorched and there were no survivors. So once they arrived, the goal shifted from helping the already established chapter to establishing a new base of operations and sussing out what happened to the previous chapter, and then build out a new chapter from there. A brief breakdown, but I don't want any spoilers for anyone, so we'll leave it at that. Building out a new chapter would be cool, but I can't help but think what the point is. Bethesda has positioned the Raider factions in the area as the main bad guys. At least that's what can be seen from the trailers released. Though Raiders don't threaten the Brotherhood all that much. I'm sure they might show a threat if they become organized, but they're scattered in Appalachia all gunning for the same thing: power and control over the region. I can't see any of the Raider factions teaming up against the Brotherhood, and honestly, even if they did, the tech the BOS brought with them, the Raiders don't really stand much of a chance. So if the Raiders are just the first bump in the road for the Brotherhood, what evil is lurking in the wake of their arrival? Something that took me way too long to notice while I was writing the first draft of this theory is the title of the update itself: Steel Dawn. At first glance, it isn't much to go on other than it's the arrival of the Brotherhood in Appalachia. Though the more I thought about it, the more it reminded me of two separate movies from the 80s. Steel Dawn, oddly enough, is the title of one of them, and the other, Red Dawn. Both of these movies revolve around topics Fallout has covered, or could cover. Steel Dawn is about a man that fights to save a group of settlers from a murderous group of raiders and protect their water purifier. Kinda sounds like the plot of Fallout 3, doesn't it? Red Dawn, on the other hand, revolves around a group fighting back the invasion of communists in their small Colorado town. Both plot lines are within the realm of possibility for Fallout, but for this theory, I want to focus a little harder on Red Dawn. Now, besides the name Steel Dawn, Fallout does draw a lot from 1980s genres of movies, Mad Max being the most iconic with a splattering of others throughout. So it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if Steel Dawn followed some of the similar plot lines of Red Dawn. I mean, the Fallout universe revolves around the fight against communism, and Red Dawn is based in a world where America is the last fighting force against communism. So with that obvious parallel, I believe that the communistic invasion is coming to Appalachia. It might not be right away, but in time, it will happen. What sparked my interest was a post from around the time of release. The post made by the user Vault of Daedalus revolved around a Chinese remnant being in Appalachia. The post goes on to show a Mama Dolce's food processing facility, a known People's Liberation Army front, as well as the appearance of the Liberators in Appalachia. And that got me thinking, why would you put such a heavy Chinese presence and not utilize it? That got me thinking that perhaps the enemy that President Eichhardt was trying to fight wasn't mainland China, but a splinter group that is operating around and on American soil. Why put so much effort in continuing the war with a threat that's so far away? Why not help repair and salvage what's left of the America you once knew? Because the threat that the enclave sought to destroy wasn't in China, it was in their backyard. Let me explain. The People's Republic operated within the states using a front of a food processing plant known as Mama Dolce's. It is here within the facility that they planted spies and built labs in an attempt to sabotage the American government and spread communistic ideas. That's where the Liberators come into play. They were designed to spread propaganda and convert the local peoples into believing in communism and spreading distrust in the US government. The facility under Mama Dolce's in Morgantown was not only being used as a base of operation for espionage, but also a factory to construct the Liberators. The facility itself was being led by a man named Xi, who was unaware of the impending war as the facility had been in the dark for several days before the Great War even started. It wasn't until the first bomb struck Appalachia a mere 2 kilometers away that Xi and the rest of the operatives were alerted to the start of the war. This led Xi to give the executive order and have all personnel scatter into the region and blend in with the local population. It was at this point that the facility under Mama Dolce's was left abandoned, for a time. It wasn't long until the remnants moved back into the facility and began to alter the Liberators. They enhanced the bot's laser weapon and strengthened the legs and added serrated blades to each of them, making them far more accurate at far ranges and more deadly within proximity. Now, why would you do that if the war had ended? Perhaps Xi ordered these Chinese personnel to scatter into the wasteland and then had them regroup elsewhere. Then Xi sent a small group back into Appalachia to recon the area and retake the Mama Dolce's, though it didn't take long for the facility to be discovered by the enclave. Eichhardt had the facility raided and left no survivors, though this leaves one question. The base under Mama Dolce's stored almost 100 Type 93 rifles, or better known as the Chinese assault rifle, yet not a single one can be found in 76, not in White Springs and not randomly out in the wasteland. It's as if the weapon never even existed. Now this could be written off as bad writing by Bethesda, but for the sake of the theory, I think this means that the rifles are still out there, somewhere, being hoarded by Chinese remnants. Just like the ones found in Fallout 3. In the capital wasteland, the Mama Dolce's location is still being used. The remnant soldiers, now ghouls, are still operating out of the facility and keeping guard for any unsuspecting scavengers. Why is the facility still in use unless they are a small part of something much bigger? That leads me into my next question. Why can the player in Fallout 3 run across a fallen Chinese remnant soldier and hear a radio beacon that plays, translating to win every battle? But what battle is this soldier still fighting? And why was he so far from the Mama Dolce's location? The missing weapons and the remnant soldiers in Fallout 3 lead me to believe that there are more facilities out in the wasteland still being used, that the war is still in fact going on. The beacon found with the soldier isn't just an Easter egg. The soldier wasn't coming from the Mama Dolce's location, rather going to, and in his attempt to reach a different outpost, he failed. Now we're going to be tiptoeing into non-canon material. I'm going to be talking about the plotline of the now shamed Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. The plot of the Brotherhood of Steel summarized that the Chinese had recovered from the Great War and planned to nuke the wasteland once again and finally end the war, but this time they would win. That was until the Brotherhood caught wind and made their way up from Texas through Canada and into Alaska to establish another war effort against the Chinese threat, in an attempt to stop them from dropping the bombs a second time. It's this plotline and the heavy references in Fallout 76 to an unknown Chinese presence that makes me think they are the ones that are the real enemy coming in the Steel Dawn update. Xi ordered them to disband and scatter to the wasteland, but obviously some of them still believed in the war and wanted to end it once and for all. Using the facility under Mama Dolce's in Morgantown as a base of operations, but I find it hard to believe that they are the only ones still fighting. The Enclave still believed that the Chinese were a threat, so much so that Eichhardt continued the war. But perhaps he thought there was a threat because he uncovered the remnants underneath the Mama Dolce's in Morgantown and realized there could be more. Eichhardt knew that the Chinese threat still loomed over the wasteland and tried to stop them the only way he could, with the Scorched. Perhaps Eichhardt knew the Chinese remnants were coming for the Appalachian wasteland because it houses some of the last functioning nuclear silos. Perhaps the accidental release of the scorched virus wasn't so much of an accident as it was intentional. Eichhardt didn't have the manpower to establish the war front and search parties required to find the remnants, and instead used the scorched virus to keep the remnants away from Appalachia, away from the nukes. These remnant operatives that were scattered around the US at every Mama Dolce's location have regrouped and are planning an assault on the Appalachian wasteland to take control of the remaining nuclear silos and aim to finish the war, using the still functioning Liberator factory to assist them in their fight, because that's what these spies were trained to do. They function without a command structure. They do what they were told regardless if there is a home to return to. Their goal is to turn the Appalachian nukes back onto the wasteland and have been waiting for the right time to strike, building up numbers, collecting weapons, and buying time. You see, Eichhardt's plan worked. The scorched virus drove everyone out of the region, and those who stayed died. That was until the Reclamation Day, and Vault 76's members wandered out into the wasteland and saved Appalachia from the scorched. People have begun to return to the region as it has become much safer. Though as these people return to Appalachia, it brings attention along with them, drawing attention from the remnant operatives that have been waiting to strike. Now they can. The enclave were the only ones who knew of the existence of the remnants, and the scorched were the guard dogs of the region. Now with both gone, the only thing standing in the remnants' way is the Brotherhood of Steel. This is why the Type 93 rifles are missing from the Appalachian wasteland, but present in Fallout 3, because until this point, the People's Republic has been hoarding them and waiting to attack. With the raider population taking a toll on Appalachia and the Enclave, the only group that were aware of the existence of the Liberation Remnant gone, they can finally take the silos by force and finish the job, surprising the Brotherhood and attacking before they even know who or what is going on. The People's Republic Army Remnant is coming for the Appalachian wasteland, and the only thing standing in their way is the Brotherhood of Steel. So, are the Chinese Remnant coming for Appalachia? And can the Brotherhood actually hold them back? Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see you in the wasteland.